Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping right into something major happening in the legal world.
Yeah, it's the federal sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs.
Yeah.
It actually started May 5th, 2025 in New York City.
Exactly. And this isn't just, celebrity gossip.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
These are incredibly serious federal allegations against a figure with, well, enormous influence. So the implications here could be huge.
Absolutely. And to really get our heads around it, we've gone through a lot of different reports. We're talking LPAs, Page Six, The Washington Post, Reuters, Wikipedia, The Independent, NPR, The Cut, Time Magazine.
LOS 40, ABC 7, New York, Today, Associated Press. Basically, a wide range of sources.
Right. So the mission for this deep dive is to pull out the absolute core information for you. What are the charges? What's the evidence look like? How are the legal proceedings actually working?
And the context around it all. We want to give you a clear understanding of this really complex situation without you feeling buried under every single news hit.
Okay, so let's start there. The charges. What exactly is Sean Combs facing in federal court?
Well, the indictment is pretty heavy. It includes charges like sex trafficking by force, racketeering, conspiracy.
Racketeering. Okay. That sounds serious.
It is. It suggests an organized criminal enterprise. Then there's transportation for prostitution, forced labor, and accusations of drugging and coercion of victims.
Wow. And the prosecution isn't saying this is recent behavior, are they?
No, that's a key part. They're alleging a pattern that goes way back, potentially starting around 2004.
2 decades ago.
Yeah. The core claim is that he allegedly used his power, his status in the music industry to, well, exploit people.
And that racketeering charge you mentioned,
Yeah.
why is that one so significant here? Does it imply more than just individual acts?
It really does. Basically, racketeering, often called ICASO, means prosecutors think they can prove a pattern of criminal activity conducted through an organization. In this case, maybe his businesses, maybe involving employees.
So not just isolated crimes, but a coordinated operation.
That's the allegation. And it carries much heavier penalties, potentially, and suggests a deeper level of organized wrongdoing. It also links into these alleged freak-offs.
Right. I've seen that term mentioned. What are those alleged to be?
The indictment describes them as violent, drug-fueled sexual encounters, allegedly orchestrated by Combs, sometimes involving his staff or resources from his companies. This is part of building that criminal enterprise picture.
And this indictment, how many counts are we talking? Is it based on a one person's account?
The federal indictment has 5 counts, I believe, and it's reportedly built on testimony from multiple alleged victims, not just one.
Okay, that leads us kind of naturally to the backstory. The Cassie Ventura civil lawsuit from 2023. How does that fit in?
It seems like a major catalyst. She filed that suit accusing him of rape and serious abuse over their relationship.
Which was settled pretty quickly, right?
It was, yes, settled out of court. But even though the civil case is resolved, it seems to have brought a lot more attention and likely encouraged other potential victims to come forward. Or perhaps it spurred the federal investigation that was already underway.
So the civil settlement didn't stop the criminal process.
Not at all. Different standards of proof, different aims. Criminal court is about punishment by the state. Civil court is about damages between parties.
Got it. And then there's that surveillance video from 2016. That seems to be a really big piece of this.
Huge. It reportedly shows Combs physically assaulting Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway.
That's incredibly disturbing.
Yeah, and for the prosecution, visual evidence like that can be very powerful corroboration for the kind of abuse alleged in her lawsuit and potentially in the criminal case.
Beyond the video, who else is expected to testify against Combs?
Well, Cassie Ventura herself is expected to be a key witness for the prosecution.
Right.
But reports also say at least 4 other alleged victims are set to testify.
And what are they expected to talk about?
Presumably their own experiences.
Yeah.
Details about alleged coercion, abuse, and maybe their forced involvement in those freak-offs we mentioned earlier.
And wasn't there something about raids on his properties? What came out of those?
Yes. Federal agents raided his homes in Los Angeles and Miami. According to news reports, they seized things like illegal drugs, firearms, electronic devices.
Stuff that the prosecution might argue connects to the alleged crimes.
Exactly. Evidence potentially related to drugging, coercion, or managing the alleged enterprise.
Okay, let's shift to the trial itself. It just started. What's the timeline looking like?
Well, jury selection began May 5th. That alone could take several days, maybe even a week or more. It's a high-profile case. Finding impartial jurors is tough.
Makes sense. And after the jury is picked?
Opening statements are tentatively scheduled for May 12th, and then the trial proper begins.
How long is this expected to go on?
Projections are around 10 weeks, maybe longer. It's going to be a marathon, not a sprint.
10 weeks. Wow. And Combs' response to all this?
He's pleaded not guilty across the board to all charges.
And what's the core of his defense argument?
His lawyers are arguing that, yes, there might have been sexual encounters, maybe even group sex, but it was all consensual.
So consent is the key defense pillar.
Yes. And they're strongly denying any kind of criminal enterprise existed. No racketeering, no organized trafficking ring.
We also heard he turned down a plea deal.
That's been reported, yes.
Yeah.
He declined an offer from the prosecutors, choosing to fight the charges at trial.
What does that usually signal? Confidence? Or just a willingness to gamble?
It could be either, or both. It definitely signals he's not admitting guilt and intends to challenge the government's case head-on.
So digging a bit deeper into that defense strategy, they're saying consent, no criminal enterprise, anything else?
Reports suggest his legal team might acknowledge some things, like maybe drug use, or that some relationships were, quote, toxic. But they draw a hard line at non-consensual acts or any kind of forced criminal activity. They're trying to separate potentially problematic personal behavior from the specific federal crimes alleged.
It's a nuanced defense, then. Acknowledge some messiness, but deny the core criminal allegations.
That seems to be the approach, based on reporting so far.
Now, obviously, the media interest in this is intense. It's everywhere.
Absolutely massive. It's a global story.
But people can't just tune in and watch it live, can they?
No, that's a crucial point. Federal trials generally aren't televised, unlike some state trials people might be used to seeing.
So how will people follow along day to day?
Mostly through news reports from journalists who are actually inside the courtroom. And of course through social media, which comes with its own caveats about accuracy and speed versus depth.
Right, so getting a full picture might be a bit challenging, relying on reporting rather than seeing it directly.
Definitely. It puts a lot of responsibility on journalists covering it.
Thinking about Combs' past, this isn't his first run-in with the law, is it?
No, it isn't. Though it's important to stress, these current charges are distinct and far more serious.
But what's the history? Just briefly.
Well, back in 1999, there was an assault charge involving a record executive. He eventually pleaded guilty to a lesser violation, harassment, I think.
Okay.
Also in 99, the infamous nightclub shooting incident when he was with Jennifer Lopez. He was acquitted of weapon charges and bribery charges related to that. A protege, Shine, was convicted, though.
Right, I remember that. Anything more recent?
In 2015, there was an incident at UCLA involving his son and a football coach, allegedly with a kettlebell. Assault charges were filed, but later dropped.
So a history of incidents, but nothing on the scale of federal sex trafficking charges.
Exactly. Multiple sources are calling this the latest and most serious legal battle he's ever faced, by a significant margin.
And if he is convicted on these federal charges, what happens then?
The potential consequences are extremely severe. We're talking potentially decades in federal prison. Yeah, especially with charges like sex trafficking by force and racketeering. These carry very heavy sentences under federal law if proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up for now. To summarize the key points, Sean Diddy Combs is currently on trial in federal court in New York.
Right. Facing extremely serious charges, including sex trafficking by force and running a criminal enterprise, racketeering.
The prosecution's case seems built on testimony from multiple alleged victims, including Cassie Ventura, plus evidence like that 2016 surveillance tape and items seized from his homes.
While the defense is arguing that everything was consensual, denying any coercion or criminal organization, and they've rejected a plea deal.
And this trial is expected to last for weeks, maybe months. Jury selection just started.
Exactly. It's going to be a long, detailed, and undoubtedly high-profile process unfolding.
So a final thought maybe to leave you with. As this trial gets underway, with these incredibly serious allegations and the kind of evidence being discussed,
Yeah, what does it really tell us or make us think about regarding accountability? Especially when you consider the power dynamics often at play in industries like entertainment.
it's definitely a question about the intersection of power, celebrity, and potential abuse.
And how the legal system handles such cases. It's a story that's far from over, and it really forces us to look at some bigger societal questions, doesn't it?